Hey guys, my name is Vishal and welcome back to another video. Today I want to tell you guys a story about how I had to build a computer right here in the middle of this pandemic, and I don't know, it turned out okay, but went through some struggles, went through some problems, and I figured out why there are such shortages on CPUs, GPUs, all that kind of stuff. I actually was reading something today and I figured out why it happened. I thought it was just, they're not mining the silicon anymore for the chips or whatever it might be, but it's a more long-winded story than just that. So I'm going to tell you guys all about that story here, and so stay tuned and let me know if you guys did know about this or didn't know about this. Let me know if you guys are interested in finding out about this a little more or whatever it is, or if you want to chat about why this is going on. I don't know the entire story, but I've heard of a few things. I've read some articles about it, and so let me know if you guys found the same articles that I did, and if you are on the same page. So the single biggest reason for the shortage is obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. It's kind of the source of this whole story. It's where it originates. The whole reason why there is a shortage is because of COVID-19. But it's not really what you'd expect. It's not like, hey, a bunch of workers or miners got high cases of COVID and that's why they couldn't mine the silicon anymore, or whatever it is to create the chips for your computers, your CPUs, your GPUs, and everything else. It's not that simple. It's actually much more convoluted than that. So what actually ended up happening was that there were a whole bunch of automakers, like vehicle makers like Toyota, Ford, and some others, that basically said, hey, there's this whole COVID pandemic going on, and what we have to do is we have to decrease our production. And that's exactly what they did. They decreased their production, and what that meant is that a lot of their Chinese suppliers who make those parts, the ones that have the big factories that make a lot of the chips for those automakers, had to now turn down their production as well. Okay, so how do cars relate to chips then? Okay, well, yeah, they use chips, but it's not the same as what's going on in your CPUs and GPUs. Well, okay, that's the second part of the story. So the second part of the story is something that you might be more familiar with, which is a lot of businesses and schools going to at home, or work at home, or school at home, and that drives demand of things like cameras, things like laptops, and other accessories. And maybe, as a lot of you guys might know, that a lot of people built their own gaming computers, or built their own computers, or ordered computers, or had to get new computers, all that kind of stuff. And that's where the second part of the story comes in, is at a time when the automakers are pulling production from these big factories that make these chips, the computer market, the market for chips in computers, laptops, and those kind of accessories for the home are skyrocketing. So, aren't they different? Well, apparently not. Apparently the same companies that make the chips for these big vehicle makers are the same as the companies that make the chips for the consumer electronics as well. And so now you can kind of see where that ties in. So when you start pulling production on one side and you start increasing the demand on the other side, it's like, okay, what do we do? And so for a little while, it looked like basically the automakers, or sorry, the manufacturers of those chips just were not going to produce that until a couple weeks ago now. So that is part of why you have low quantities of GPUs, you have low quantities of CPUs, you have low quantities of gaming consoles like the PS5 or other stuff like that. So now we're kind of on the tail end of the pandemic, and so why is there still no stock? Why is everything on back order? Why is there no quantity of these chips to make CPUs, GPUs? Why is the PlayStation 5 now moved out? Why didn't they hit their days? Why are there less PS5s available for us to purchase. Well, this is where another aspect of the story, another kind of web is formed, and that was because of weather. And I know it's silly, I know it's like, okay, well, we have a COVID pandemic going on and it's the weather that kind of, detriments this. Well, so there was a couple of things. One was some droughts that are in Taiwan. So Taiwan is one of the largest chip manufacturers in the world. And so there's huge amounts of droughts there right now that is affecting the production of these chips. These chips actually take a lot of water to produce, and without that water available because of the droughts, they're not able to have as much or have as many chips being produced at the same time, or at this time. The other thing that happened over in Japan was actually something that there was a fire in Japan in one of the largest chip manufacturers in the world, and so Japan is all of a sudden out of the running for making these chips. Okay, well, there's also another big location in Texas. Well, what happened in Texas a few months ago? Well, they got hit by this huge ice storm, and that halted a lot of the production in Texas as well. So we've got these three big areas that are making these like a huge volume of these chips for consumers, for everybody to buy, for these automakers as well. And now all of a sudden they weren't able to produce those anymore. So that led to a lot of the backlog, a lot of the shortages that we saw. So then the next thing that this article, or these articles that research that I did talked about was, okay, so when do we expect things to get back into stock and things are going in a good direction? Well, the answer is in about a year to a year and a half. And the reason why is that a lot of these companies now that were lacking these chips and had to push out some of their dates are going back now and saying, okay, we want this as soon as possible. And when you have companies like Apple, you have companies like Google, and then you have them competing with companies like Toyota and Honda and Ford and all those automakers, they don't match, and especially because the chips that go into Apple laptops or other Apple devices are much more complicated than the chips that go into the devices for vehicles. There's huge competition right now between the two to get their production going fastest. And because people are now going out and buying vehicles because they can go outside now, the COVID pandemic is dying down a little bit. They're also doing that. So, but at the same time, we also have increased demand, or we always had demand for Apple products, and that's not going away anytime soon. So how does this actually relate to my computer that I was building? Well, because of these shortages, I'm not able to get parts as quickly as I want or as efficiently as I want. And in this case, the computer was for someone else that I was building it for. And I actually told them, hey, you know what? I can build it for this much, and they were very excited to actually be able to get it for a certain amount. And then I realized, well, no, I can't, because A, the prices have gone up because of the shortage, and B, the quantities for certain things aren't available. You can't get necessarily the same processors you were able to, so you have to pick a different motherboard, or you have to pick different memory that you had to choose, based on the shortages that there are. And one of the things was getting a GPU is almost impossible. And that might be also due to the cryptocurrency market, but I don't know about any of that, and maybe I'll look into some of that. But I do know that a lot of the shortage that's happening is causing the delays for things like personal computers and built computers, custom built computers. All right, so I hope that kind of informs you and tells you a little bit about why there is a shortage on computer chips right now in the world. It's not necessarily the things that you might be thinking. It definitely wasn't the reason that I was thinking, but it is a reason, and nonetheless, and we'll have to wait till this kind of blows over, things settle down, and by then, hopefully, I'll have made up a decision on what computer to build, and be able to build one. That's what I'm going to be looking into. I have my computer right now. I built 7-8 years ago, and it's definitely in the last part of its life, and it's slowing down a little bit. But I'm excited to see what new technology there is to come out. I know a lot of people have been working hard over the pandemic. A lot of these companies coming out with new GPUs, new CPUs, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of this, and hopefully the shortage ends very soon and we have a lot of stock so I can build something pretty much right away. But anyways, hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you took something away from this video. Let me know if you guys knew about this or are just finding out about this now. And let me know if I got any of that stuff wrong. I know that there's multiple sources, so let me know down in the comment section below, and thank you guys for watching.